In a room filled with strangers, we see a man, Zhang Yi, being held down as he is being cut up for food. The excruciating pain causes him to want to end his own life, hoping for someone to save him. Seeing his goddess, Fang Yuqing, walk inside the room, she announces that she had made him open the door so she could get extra resources. Zhang, feeling humiliated for being too naive, prays that if there is an afterlife, he would pay them back 100-fold, feeling his life fading. He closes his eyes. Just when everything goes black, he jolts up awake. Zhang wonders why he is still alive. He checks his phone calendar, seeing that he had awakened 1 month before the global freeze. He questions if he was reborn. The global freeze event was caused by a blue star being hit by a supernova explosion 500,000 light-years away, causing the world to enter an ice age. The daily temperature would be below -60 to -70. Blizzards lasting for a month, causing widespread extinctions. Zhang was lucky to rely on his relationship with the supervisor of a supermarket for rations, only for them to snatch it away from him and use him for food. Zhang plans to ensure the safety of his home and secure enough supplies to survive the apocalypse. As he plans what weapon would be good enough for his protection, he feels that something has entered his eyes. Zhang rubs his eyes and starts to blur, appearing in a massive room where only he can enter. With a space ability, he could store massive amounts of resources with him at all times. He could use this opportunity to steal from the South China warehouse so that he wouldn't even have to worry about resources. Zhang, having some time before the ice apocalypse, would take this chance to go eat some delicious food that he wouldn't be able to in the future. Inside a fancy restaurant, we see Zhang stuffing his face with top-of-the-line food as if he had been starving. Outside, as Zhang is about to leave, the manager chases after him to give him a VIP card for the bill that has exceeded 50,000. Zhang declines the offer. His once goddess, Feng Yu, coincidentally nearby, overhears this. Her friend who was with her tells Fang that she is lucky that Zhang, who was rich, liked her. Fang walks toward Zhang, acting like a pure dainty flower. Zhang remembers that she was the one who caused him to have such a painful death, and that she was a backstabbing bitch. He tells them he is going shopping, and Fang and her friend make up an excuse that they also need to do some shopping, and that they should help each other since they are neighbors. At the market, Zhang uses them as free labor, making them pull all his groceries. They ask him why he is buying so much. He jests that if there was an apocalypse, he'd have more to survive on. They think he is joking, and tell him that since they help him so much, he should treat them to dinner. He tells them he is too busy, and that he'll treat them next month. Fang's friend tells him that he is rich, but in reality, he is just a cheapskate. Fang bumps her friend's elbow, and makes an excuse that her friend was just joking. Zhang smirks, tells them he doesn't mind. As he is about to leave the supermarket, his neighbor, carrying a small kid, asks him why he is buying so much. She asks him if he couldn't finish it all, that he could split it with her. As the kid with the neighbor tries to grab some food from him, he snatches it back, arguing that she should go pay for herself, leaving the woman and child behind. Back at home, Zhang throws all the items he purchases into his space ability to test the effect after a while, if it was still fresh. Checking the list of what he still needs, he could get more primitive weapons like a crossbow and knives, but wondered how to get guns. Still having a month left, he plans to sell all his assets and obtain more resources for his survival. The next day he checks on the items he had put in his space ability. Seeing that there was no change, he called a hotel, stating that there was to be a banquet at his house and needed a large amount of food. After finishing the phone call, he brings out the deed for the house. At the bank, after adding all the money from mortgaging his house, it seemed he still didn't have enough for all the weapons and medicines he still needed to buy. A guy sitting around by the bank asks him if he needs money, and that he could try loaning money from his company. Zhang excitedly goes with him to meet the manager, knowing he's not going to pay them back. Inside the office, Zhang asks to borrow 5 million. And the manager tells him that the interest is very high and that he would need to pay 7 million after 3 months. Zhang signs the contract, putting all his assets as collateral. As Zhang is leaving, the manager acts as if he had just caught an easy prey. Zhang, with money to spend, leaves, now at the War Dragon Security Company, one of the best security companies that provide security for famous people. Zhang hears a rumor from his past life that they had built a safe house for the son of a real estate tycoon worth billions, allowing them to live an easy and comforting life. As the manager of the War Dragon Security Company walks in, Zhang greets him and tells him that he would like a safe house. The manager gives him a list of options, and Zhang chooses the one that has the best survivability and defense, such as a ventilation system and reinforced doors. The manager explains that the one he picked out would be like a fortress as long as it has weapons. He tells Zhang that he was once a mercenary. Surprised, Zhang asks if he had any way to get him weapons. The manager asks if he had any enemies. Zhang agrees, making an excuse that he had offended someone and needed weapons for self-protection. The manager tells him that in half a month, the safe house will be built, and that if there is any news about guns, he'll tell him. Zhang, leaving, goes to the hunt club where he puts in the crossbow and knife he bought. Having taken the hunter's license before, he won't be questioned on why he had hunting weapons. Parking in front of where he lived, he sees a commotion in front of the gate. The security guard stops the loaded trucks and tells them he needs the owner's consent. Zhang tells the guard that it was all for him. The crowd outside is surprised by the many trucks. The load would cost millions. Fang, outside with the crowd, sees this and exclaims that Zhang is really rich and that she must make him like her. She continues to make cute gestures to him. Zhang, who sees this, promises that he'll personally send her to hell for his grudge in his past life. Zhang, in the warehouse filled with his package, uses his space ability, leaving nothing left, having all the luxurious meals that he could eat all day of his life during the apocalypse will be a lot more enjoyable. In the hallway, the neighbor thinks Zhang is crazy for buying so much food, and that it is a waste of money. Zhang gets a text from the manager of the War Dragon Security, telling him that he has someone who provides guns, but the cost is quite expensive. Zhang agrees, only if the quality is good. Walking off, Zhang thinks to himself that after 1 month the neighbor will know who is truly foolish. At the supermarket warehouse office, Zhang asks the supermarket manager Zhao if he could supply a large amount of medicine. Zhang throws out an offer that he would buy double the price of the market. Zhao couldn't skip on the offer and agreed. Zhang, leaving the office, looks at all the general supplies that he would need from the warehouse, that just before the apocalypse happens he must empty the entire warehouse. Zhang, walking by the coffee lounge, sees a guy trying to hit on Fang. Fang makes up an excuse that she couldn't go out with the guy. The guy, seeing Zhang walk by, points him out for making Fang help with carrying his shopping. He tells Zhang to give 500 for Fang to see a doctor. Zhang told him that she had taken the initiative to help carry, and that furthermore asked him who he thought he was to talk to him like that. The guy, scared by Zhang, tells Fang that Zhang is not a good person and that she should keep away from him. Zhang, back in his room after a shower, gets a text from Fang asking why he has been stocking up supplies and if something is going to happen. She then begins to send him a flirty message which he ignores. In the room where Fang is, she gets mad from not being replied to. She asked her friend if something was going to happen. Her friend laughs, thinking that Zhang is just being dumb, and tells her to just relax, calming Fang down. Zhang, who had waited a week, finally got the weapons he needed and the medicine. With the safe house finished, the manager tells him to pay within 3 months. The manager leaves, and Zhang thinks to himself that the manager won't be able to even get any payment when the apocalypse descends. Having his order of drinking water come in, he asks the workers to rest and drink some water. While the workers were talking, Zhang was waiting for the medicine in the water to take effect. After half an hour, The workers all fell asleep. Zhang sneaks his way into the warehouse, turns off the security, and begins to use his ability to store everything. He sees that there are only a few boxes left. Checking them inside, has the latest cold-proof clothing that could protect him in negative 100-degree weather. Back in his room with all the workers still sleeping, he pretends to sleep and needs to avoid suspicion until the apocalypse descends. At the warehouse, the workers were shocked by the warehouse being emptied. Zhang, on the phone with his manager, reports it, telling him that it would be impossible to empty a warehouse in such a short time. Zhang told the manager they needed to report this immediately so that an investigation could be done as soon as possible. He told the crew to calm down and that if they didn't do anything bad, they wouldn't be responsible. At the police station, Zhang had finished cooperating with the police about their questions, skillfully avoiding any holes in his stories leading to their suspicion of him. As he is about to leave, the policeman tells him that he has to stay in the city, as there are still doubts about the case that he could verify. He agrees, saying he wouldn't leave town. Outside on the street while walking back home, Zhang checks his phone and saw that snow started to fall, and the weather was freezing cold. Everyone outside started to scurry back home because of the cold weather. Zhang knows that after 2 days the world would never be the same, and that they have entered the Ice Age. 2 days later, the world was hit by the aftermath of the supernova, causing the world temperature to drop sharply. We can see outside that the world begins to fill with snow and ice. Zhang saw that day as finally coming. Zhang, who is sleeping comfortably in bed, is awakened by a phone call. Picking up the phone, he sees that it is Fang who is calling him. Zhang answers the phone, asking Fang why she had called him so early in the morning. She asked him if he knew that the weather would be so cold when he stocked up supplies. He casually told her, pretending that a friend had told him before that the temperature would drop. Fang, knowing why he had stocked up on supply, started to talk to him in a flirty tone, telling him that she's freezing. Zhang, thinking that it is not his problem, asks her if there is nothing else and hangs up the phone on her. Fang is pissed by how Zhang would just hang up on a pretty girl like her and plans to get back at him somehow. Zhang starts to send pictures of his high and luxurious meals to Fang. Fang is surprised by the cost, and Zhang, who was her neighbor, was living comfortably and well. Fang texts in to ask if he could treat her to a meal. Zhang tells her that if she wanted a meal, she better go buy it herself. Fang held in her anger to text all the mean things she had to say to Zhang. Just as Zhang goes back to eating, he sees that he got a notification from the monitoring system that he had installed. He saw that, in the main doorway, people were crowding around the woman called Auntie Lin, who he had met at the grocery store. She tells the people around her that if there is anyone who is stashing their supply, they will be in trouble once she reports them to the higher-ups. Zhang appears behind the crowd, asking if she knows how long the snowstorm will last. Zhang smirks, asking if she can afford the responsibility if they starve, because she's hogging the resources. The crowd begins to question her if she would share if there was a lack of resources. She tells them there is definitely no way the neighborhood committee would let them starve, and that the snowstorm would be over soon. Auntie Lin points out at Zhang for frightening the crowd, and what he's doing is against the law. Zhang leaves, telling them that he doesn't care what they do, and that he won't be leaving his room even if they ask him to. Auntie Lin thinks that Zhang is arrogant, and plans to get back at him somehow. A day later, Zhang is playing games and eating crispy chips, not having to worry and enjoying life not working. Just then, he got a notification of a text on his phone. Seeing it was Auntie Lin, asked Zhang to help clear the snow outside. Zhang knows that the snowfall won't stop, and that it will be pointless as no one can clear it. He messaged her that even if he was asked to clear the snow, it would have to be until the snow stopped falling. As everyone in the group chat agrees with Zhang, Auntie Lin tries to use her authority to make Zhang and those who oppose will be punished after the snow disaster ends. Zhang knows that others are hiding in chat, waiting for him to take the fall. He is unafraid of Auntie Lin's threat, begins to parade against her, asking her if she thinks they are so easy to bully and why she doesn't call out those of higher status and are rich. The others begin to text in retaliation against Auntie Lin, asking why she doesn't ask Xu Hao, who was a rich kid family and lived on the upper floor, or Chen Zhenghao, who had hundreds of people working under him, to help them clear out the snow. Zhang texts her that if she is so capable, she should tell Xu Hao and Chen Zheng to help clear out snow. In a past life, these two culprits were responsible for breaking down the door and attacking him, and almost everyone in the neighborhood benefited from his own demise. Unwilling to let them off the hook, he's determined to exact revenge. Auntie Lin, determined to maintain her authority, contacts both Xu Hao and Chen Zheng. Xu Hao interprets Auntie Lin's messages as attempts to control him, prompting him to issue a threatening call, warning her that any further attempts to boss him around will result in dire consequences. Chen Zheng, indifferent to the situation and enjoying his time with a woman in bed, dismisses Auntie Lin's concerns, asserting his lack of obligation to work and urging her to quickly clear the snow so he can continue enjoying life. Angered by Zhang, Auntie Lin, forced to confront influential figures, labels him a bastard. While Zhang is cooking, Auntie Lin blames him for the uncleared snow in a call. Dismissing her accusations, Zhang accuses her of cowardice and suggests she just wants to vent her frustration. He warns her that continuous barking will lead to dire consequences, threatening her if she persists. Undeterred, Auntie Lin vows to make him pay. As Zhang was eating, a knock on the door interrupts him. Xu Hao confronts Zhang, enraged by his comments against him and threatening to attack him. Armed with a crossbow, Zhang anticipates Xu Hao's threats to break down the door and takes action. When Xu Hao attempts to kick down the door, Zhang opens it and shoots an arrow through Xu Hao's leg, leaving him in excruciating pain. With temperatures plummeting to -70 degrees, Xu Hao faces the prospect of a frozen, crippled leg, risking a cold death if not treated promptly. Despite limping to the elevator, Xu Hao is shocked that Zhang would go to such lengths. Attempting to call an ambulance proves futile due to the harsh weather, forcing Xu Hao to gather supplies for self-surgery. Threatening retaliation in the group chat, Xu Hao vows to kill Zhang. Now equipped with weapons, Xu Hao instructs his men to break down the door and eliminate Zhang. However, Zhang, annoyed by the disturbance, hooks up a hose in his kitchen. As the group prepares to shield themselves from the crossbow, Zhang surprises them with a blast of cold water, leaving them shivering in their wet clothes. Back in Xu Hao's room, his frozen men struggle to convey their failure. Frustrated, Xu Hao interrogates them, learning about Zhang's impenetrable door and the cold water retaliation. Determined, Xu Hao orders his men to guard the premises, anticipating Zhang's attempt to escape. Outside, individuals attempt to clear the snow but realize it's an insurmountable task. Observing this, Zhang acknowledges the imminent struggle for survival in the face of the unfolding disaster.